I'm Mike Compton, um, mandolin player. Not much good for anything else. Uh, we're at what else do you want me to say?
Just tell me about the Monroe Mandolin Camp and how it came about.
Well, we're here at Monroe Mandolin Camp. Been going on. I think this is 11, maybe 12. I think it's 11th year. Uh, Originally, started out life as the Monroe Style Camp, which it was in Owensboro at the time, and I think maybe around 2005 or six, somewhere in there. I believe that's about right. Uh, that was at the Bluegrass Museum at the time, and it was 2 weeks, two separate weeks, and originally just came as an instructor, and after a couple of years went by, I ended up being director of the camp, and Richie Brown was the assistant director, and we did that uh, for a while. He and I worked on that and started figuring out how to put a camp together, which neither one of us knew how to do. After a number of years went by, I'm trying to remember when the first one of the Monroe Mandolin Camp started. I had met Heidi Herzog, who is the director now, and we started the camp basically not so much out of necessity, but out of concern. Once they dropped the camp in Owensboro, it was given to me by Gabrielle Gray, who was working at, I guess, what, curator, the head of the museum up there. And she said, well, that they were going to move into a more cosmopolitan, modern version, and that they weren't going to do the traditional side anymore. So she said, do you have energy to do this? And I said, well, sure. And she said, well, here you go. I won't think about that anymore. And then it came to me, and once that happened, I had phone calls and conversations with probably two or three dozen, predominantly older men who were big Monroe fans, and they were concerned that there was no place for them to go to play this music, and they felt like they had been left out of the scene and left behind, and I felt sorry for them. And Heidi and I talked about it for a long time and thought, well, we should start the camp and we'll just call it something else, and it'll be about Bill Monroe and learning how to play his music and his sound. And it started out being mandolin in the beginning, and then we started adding instruments year after year until it's gotten to where it is now. But basically, it was just catering to the need that was there.
Um, why is it important to teach students the style of playing of Bill Monroe and to preserve traditional bluegrass music?
Well, it's a foundation of what we have now. It takes into the style, Southern fiddling tradition. Also, it takes into stylistically, it brings in the rhythm style of Arnold Schultz, who Bill learned a lot from. He was primarily a ragtime player, I think, in the way he played rhythm, which was supposedly similar to Travis-style guitar, thumb and index finger. He played ragtime music in the wintertime when he was a field hand, worked with the Monroes, and when Bill got older and started getting interested in music, I think he kind of found himself with most of his family members gone, and he was Arnold and the music were kind of things that he could depend upon, and he learned a lot about the rhythm for Marshall Schultz, and because it brings in the white fiddling tradition from Scots Irish players. It brings in African rhythm sounds, rural themes. There's no elite themes in it. It's all about common people, common subjects. And it was originally, I guess, it was an art form that was present, that brought people together. You know, it wasn't a performance art at that point in time. It was entertainment and an aspect of the community that brought everybody together, so they could mingle and find out the news and find out who needs help and who's doing what, and you know, all that kind of thing. So it was a different kind of thing back then.
How did you first encounter the music of Bill Monroe?
I was living in Mississippi, and I was exposed to it by a man there. Originally, I think I had first heard this style of music played on the Deliverance soundtrack because it was such a big thing. And then I when I got to be about 15, I got moved in pretty close to a cousin of mine who was learning guitar and the fiddle, and then we started listening to things. At first, when I started listening to Monroe, he sounded out of tune with his singing, and it made me a little uncomfortable listening to him because it was less refined sounding than a lot of the things that I had grown up with. I grew up listening to my parents' record collection, which was, you know, had Ray Charles and Ella Fitzgerald and Hank Williams and Henry Mancini and all kinds of stuff, you know, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass and all those kind of things. Basically overproduced studio records. And listening to Monroe, it kind of made me want to grind my teeth a little bit. It was like learning to drink beer. It wasn't too good at first, but it got a lot better. And then I got to hanging around a few string band musicians, working for a few older, like farmers down Mississippi, who played like Skillet Lickers and Narmer and Smith and a lot of old time stuff. And in a roundabout way became acquainted with a man, Raymond Huffmaster, who lived in Meridian, that had a band down there. Very, very charismatic personality in the community. And I was in middle teens at that point, and I sort of latched on to him and the music and just started following it. And it's led me to where we are now.
What attracts you? What do you love about the sound of Bill Monroe and traditional bluegrass?
The blues aspect, probably the most, but it's the unapologetic nature of it. It's raw and it's a little primal energy level. Like I say, and the unapologetic aspect of it is very emotional style of music. Well, I think whenever it's done right, and it gets to you in that soft spot, you know, where you maybe knocks the fence down, where you know makes you feel it.
How do you teach, or how do you help students to play that way with that kind of energy?
It takes a lot of coaxing sometimes. People are really careful about not wanting to make mistakes and wanting to be good and do all that. But I think we're all taught to do the best and to not take those kind of chances, not be reckless, make it all perfect and everything. But that takes the life out of it. So, you know, it's kind of like say, well, stick your neck out and see what happens, because you find a lot of stuff that you want to keep if you'll do that. Mainly it's just teaching them the style, the ingredients, what it's made out of, and how do you make this sound? Well, you know, you might want to change your change where you're playing this because, you know, you might want to change your tone of voice just like you do if you're talking to somebody. It can be, sometimes you feel loving, sometimes not so much, you know, but, you know, basically cater to the material, cater to the song. What does it say? What are you trying to say? Well, you know, just get over yourself and play it.
I'd say just personally a core memory of last year's camp. I don't remember what song it was, but it was a Bill Monroe song that I should have known.
Yeah.
And we were in a jam, and I did not want to take a solo. You made me take one, and man, I just butchered the heck out of it. And you looked at me afterwards, and you went, that was painful. And I went, yeah, that was very painful. Thank you for that experience.
Yeah.
It was very painful.
Yeah.
But
Well, it don't hurt you. You know.
It doesn't. I'm not gonna tell you which one it is because I still haven't learned it. I want you to
Okay.
explain it.
All right. Well, I'm not going to judge you. Yeah. This music really, you know, considering that it was predominantly male, there were a lot of women and strong women in the music early on, and on up until, gosh, of course there's more women playing now, but I remember there being really strong women like Wilma Lee Cooper and Margie Sullivan, and I'm not going to say any more because I'll leave people out, but strong personalities, people that weren't real reserved about what they were saying, but respectful. So it's got hard edges, and you know I like that. I like that, just that little bit of discomfort whenever they come at you and they're being honest.
I like it too. I really feel like it invites people to play and participate because it's I don't mean imperfect as in bad, but it's not.
No.
It's not perfect, and you go, well, if it's not perfect, then I can play it.
But you know, John Hartford used to talk about being yourself, which kind of opens a lot of doors and adds some freedom into it, because he said if you're not being yourself, he said people can spot a phony from the back row. And whenever he told me that, the way he said it, I thought, you know, you learned this the hard way. He said they can spot a phony from the back row and they feel like you're lying to them, and they'll get up and leave, and you'll never see them again. And I thought, you know what you're talking about. This has happened to you. But you know, that just kind of takes all the guesswork out of it. You just wade in and give it to them and see what happens. You know, you surprise yourself a lot of the time. And if you make a mistake, it ain't a big deal.
How does coming to this camp and kind of the experience of this camp give people a unique access to the kind of tradition that you're talking about?
Because that's what we talk about here. We try to teach them not to be these people. I tried to be, you know, consider myself to be like Bill Monroe for a long time, and you know, talking about getting over yourself. After a while, it's like, well, I don't sound like this guy at all. It teaches you how to make that sound, those sounds, and to look at time that way, to look at phrasing and the blues aspects of melody lines and all that, and the way, the styles of harmony and all that. That's what we're trying to do. It's not that so you can go out and be those people. It's to give you some information on how you can make that sound, what that flavor is about.
What are you still learning about this music after playing it for so long?
Well, it's a little bit, how do I describe this? You can listen to it 1,000 times. You can listen to a song 1,000 times, and because it's somebody else's brain waves, you're not going to hear it maybe the way that what they played. Actually, it's happened to me a lot. Listening to tunes, songs. You go back. I used to hear Hubert Davis, guy I used to work with North Carolina, brilliant musician. he said, you always hear something new. I thought I had heard it all until I started writing these things down, and then it could go a while, go update the arrangement and hear something that I hadn't heard before. But it wasn't that it just happened once or twice. It happens constantly. Could go back and look at them and say, well, how in the world I've got this whole phrase wrong? You can't really hear what's there until your brain gets used to the way it, that's because you don't think that way. You got to listen to it a lot of times before you hear what's there. Your brain's filling in the gaps with what you're used to, and until you get used to that, then you're not going to hear it accurately. But I think that's cool that you can use that aspect to imply a lot of things without articulating every one of those notes. You can just say, well, how about this, and slide across it, or just make suggestions rather than everything just being completely full of notes.
What misconceptions do you encounter that students have about Bill Monroe and the style of music?
That it's easy to play his style of music. That's the main one. I'll hear people say, this is the way Bill Monroe plays, and they'll play something really hard, push down, or play a really fast tremolo, and they say, this is Bill Monroe style. It's like, well, best part of it. There's a lot more to it. Or they'd say, well, he was ragged, and some of it he was. But he knew what he was doing. It was that way for a reason. It's the personality of it. It's the mood. It's the texture he was looking for. There's other places where he's playing and it's light and it's airy and it sounds like little bells, and it's just gorgeous and very precise. He had it all.
How do you think you mentioned? Spent a long time studying Bill Monroe and then eventually realizing that you sounded different from him.
I don't sound like him.
How do you think how do you think students go about developing kind of their own voice?
Everybody wants that, I think. It takes a long time. You got to learn a lot of vocabulary, and just what really got me to learning more about. And people always say, well, what your style? What is your style? I don't know. I play Monroe style, and I don't sound like Bill, but I don't know what my style is. It's more. It was whenever. Well, basically, to be blunt, when Bill died, and the tunes started running out, there was no more. Tunes that had been overlooked or stuff that we had missed. When after that happened, I thought, well, what in the world am I going to do? There's not any more of this music. I did notice that there was a big hole right in the middle of me where I was supposed to be, and that's where I had put him. And so I spent a lot of time trying to fill in the gap. I found a lot of other stuff that I liked. And realized that the way Bill approached melody lines, then that sort of impressionistic version of it would work with the other stuff. And so that's the way I went, out of necessity, because there was no more Bill Monroe new stuff to learn. Now, I'm just about out of it. I think there's about 13, 15 more tunes that are floating around that have not been recorded, but maybe more than that. But that's all that I know of.
I know last year you talked about an album that you had, the Rare and Fine album.
Mm-hmm.
You had talked about working on that album. And,
yeah. I think there's enough to do one more of those, but I don't have any plans to do it anytime soon. But it's just Mark Hembry, who's here this time, told me years ago back when in that Nashville Bluegrass Band where I was agonizing over playing something and I couldn't figure out how to make it sound like bluegrass music. It was I don't remember what we were doing, but he said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "I can't figure out how to play this." And he said, "Well, just play the style." And he said, "It works everywhere." And so that's what I did. And that's what I'm still doing. It does. It works almost everywhere. All the other gigs that I've had over the years, from rock and roll stuff, like soundtrack things and all kinds of other things, singer-songwriter things, it works. It works all over the place.
What brings you back to this camp every year? Why do you keep doing it? What's your favorite thing about running this camp?
Well, knowing all these people here, and we just got through doing a class, listening to all the people that were in there. The topic today was songs that I wish that I had heard Bill Monroe play or finish, where you would only play a half and not the other, or being a golden opportunity for him to play a solo on something and I could just hear it in my head, and whenever he played the track, it's not there. So he's like, well, let's see if we can recreate some of those, or play the rest of it, or play the solo that doesn't exist. Every one of them came up with something that sounded like first generation bluegrass. And, that's exciting because it says, this is working. They get it. It's a hard thing to get. You just have to be around it a while and hear it, and again, just listen to how the thing's put together. But, that brings me a lot of pleasure. It's like, well, this is not a lost cause. And plus it's just a real civilized, easygoing, self-governing body of people who have become to know each other, and it's not like a family reunion, as much, but it's just a friendly atmosphere, and it's paying off. That's why it's encouraging. That's why I keep coming back, and it helps me. It's a place where I can hear the flavor that I've chased since I was 15.
It's absolutely wonderful. I mean, last year, the first time I came, it was just mind blowing. Yeah,
it
is
just
such a good experience.
It is.
Is there anything else that you'd want to say, or that feels important to say, or story you want to tell, or?
Oh, I probably shouldn't tell any stories.
You know what I mean?
That's for after a while.
Is there a question that I should have asked you, or just something you want to say?
I don't know. I'm just going to do this for as long as I can play, because I've come to love it, as much as I did in the beginning when the magic has come back, and it is still a business, but it's also a huge blessing for me to be able to do it. It makes a lot more sense, and my hands feel more at home. And, it's not so much of a struggle anymore. It's a struggle to keep up, especially with people in their 20s and 30s, because, you get old after a while. But there's ways around that, too. I don't know. I think that's enough.